The way to achieve those kind of fill rates is by working with financial commitment from your client. But it's not just that. The financial commitment from the client isn't often the thing that solves the challenge with a, say, difficult, challenging, niche, or awkward hire.
Hmm.
It's the process that you put in place to deliver and to execute that search that makes the difference.
Welcome to the All in Recruitment podcast by Manatal, where we explore best practices, learnings, and trends with leaders in the recruitment space. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Spotify and stay tuned for our weekly episodes. I'm your host, Lydia, and this week we have Louise Archer, who's the founder of Retrained Search. Pleasure to have you with us, Louise.
Thank you, Lydia. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
So tell us about your company, Louise. What's the story behind that?
Sure. So I once upon a time was a contingent recruiter, and for a long time, about 13 years, and I was frustrated with the way that I would work on fees, and then it wouldn't result in anything. So I'd be working really hard to find candidates, and then the client might fill it internally, or something might happen. Or another agency would place it. And luckily, somebody taught me how to move to a retained model. And
Mm-hmm.
that meant that I was working with committed clients, and everything that I worked on resulted in a fee because of that financial commitment. And it really surprised me that nobody had taught me how to do it before.
Yeah, 13 years.
Yeah,
Contingent
exactly, right.
recruiting.
And that more people aren't working in that way. I didn't change the level that I was working at. I was working at mid-level, really, mid to not senior or executive work at
Mm.
all. And I didn't change the market that I was working in. I just changed the model that I used. And
Mm.
I'd had training on how to sell retainers before, but it hadn't worked. And the particular way that I was taught how to do it just worked really well for me. And the company I was working for asked me to start teaching people internally how to do what I had done. And it kind of
Mm.
grew arms and legs and turned into a fully blown company. So now I run a firm called Retrained Search, and we have a training program that teaches contingent recruiters how to move from contingent, either all or in part, to retained. And we operate all over the world now.
Mm.
So yeah, it's been a happy accident, you could say.
Yeah. So what's the success rate, or do you have any success stories to share?
I mean, loads. So we've taught about 1,500 recruiters
Mm.
now how to move to retained. Most of them had no experience of working on a retained basis at all. One of the teams that I taught won their first ever retained project of a $500,000 US basic salary. It
Mm.
was a 90,000 US dollar fee. That was the biggest fee by 3 times the firm had ever seen. And they won it on a retained basis. That was just the start.
Mm.
And firms that after just 3 months of working with us are fully retained, whereas before they had no retained revenue at all. And I think we're at about 35 million in retained revenue now from
Mm.
our members. It's difficult to count, but from what we count, yeah, it's you could say that we have quite a big impact on people's careers.
So how does it work? Is it in a community? Do you, is this training on a subscription basis? Do they come back? Do they have refreshers, or how long does it last?
Yeah, sure. So we run an 8-week program originally, and that's the kind of what we call the foundation course, and that takes the recruiters on a journey from the mindset through to learning how to sell and learning how to deliver, which
Mm.
is such a crucial component of it. And around that, there's wraparound support of live coaching weekly and the community and all the documents and all the support. So you actually get 12 months working with us when you join with us. So it's a journey. It doesn't just happen overnight. So we take it one step at a time. Some people take it slowly. Some people
Mm.
just want to, run at it, and that's okay. We tailor it to work for you.
So now I also understand, looking at your website and also having a quick chat with you pre-show, that the training also guarantees agencies ways to achieve, and I quote, 95 to 100% fill rate and
That's right.
forecastable revenue. So what elements go into making this happen?
Well, the way to achieve those kind of fill rates is by working with financial commitment from your client. But it's not just that. The financial commitment from the client isn't often the thing that solves the challenge with a, say, difficult, challenging, niche, or awkward hire. It's the process that you put in place to deliver and to execute that search that makes the difference. So the retained solution, as I was taught it, is the financial commitment from the client, which allows you to put in place a robust process, which is engineered to solve that particular problem, whether it's a low-level multi-hire campaign, or whether it's a mid-niche critical hire, or whether it's a senior or executive or confidential hire. So the delivery model does depend on the level and the complexity of the assignment, but fundamentally, the success rate is based on the commitment from the client to work on the project with you, but also abide by what you need from them at every stage of the process. And for you then to put in place a process which you know will guarantee a result. And that's what the financial commitment allows you to do: execute a search and put the client in a position where they're certain they're making their decision from all of the talent available to them in the market at this time, and the best of the talent available to them in the market at this time. And that's the typical retained completion rate between 95 and 100%.
Now, how can contingent recruiters identify the kind of clients who might be good candidates for retained search for this kind of model?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because most people think that it's for the senior or the executive hires, and therefore that's what you're looking for when you're looking for opportunities for retained. But actually, what I found is that the retained model can be applied at any level. And actually, the best way I've found to apply a retained model in many circumstances is where the contingent model isn't yielding the results that the client is looking for, or the recruiter is looking for. So the best clients are the clients that are not having a good time with the contingent model. So what I normally say is, if a client is getting what they want when they want it, and it's an enjoyable process using the methods that they're using right now, then leave them alone. Let them carry on doing what they're doing. I mean, most people aren't. That's the beauty and the ease of being able to work with people on a retained basis, because most clients are not having a great time with a contingent model. So I would say anybody that is not having a good time, if they're either not getting what they want, or they're not getting it when they want it, or they're not particularly enjoying the process, then they are excellent partners on a retained basis, because the retained model is able then to solve the challenges that the contingent model doesn't.
So I think the key, based on what I'm hearing, is in the process that you put in place with the client, and that customizable, or that sort of tailored solution for different levels. I suppose that is the give and take in a retained search model.
Yeah, I mean, there are some fundamentals that I've learned are non-negotiable, regardless of the level of the position. But then, for example, there are flexible elements like behavioral profiling, for example. You might want to do technical testing if it's a warehouse operative position, but it would probably be more important to do behavioral and personality profiling if it's a leadership position, for example. So there are elements that are tailorable, but there are component parts of the mechanics of a retained solution to make sure that you reach a result that I found can't be flexed, like not drip feeding candidates through a process. So taking the brief, executing the search, and bringing all of the candidates to the table at the same time to allow the client to make the best decision, rather than seeing one and then having to make a decision based on one, having not seen any of the others, for example. So yeah, there are some components that are flexible and some components that are obligatory, if you like.
What might be some common objections that clients might have to retain search, and from the recruiter's point of view, how can they address them?
I mean, you get all sorts. It depends what situation you're making the recommendation in. Let's say this is a client that's only ever worked on a contingent basis, and they have never, they quite often say, I don't, why should I pay you up front? Like, nobody else is asking me for money up front. Why should I do this? That's quite a common one. shall I share how I would handle that?
Yeah,
Or
of course.
yeah,
Yeah, go
is that
ahead.
helpful? So to that, I would say like I'm not suggesting that you should do anything differently to what you would normally do, but what you shared with me was that you're frustrated with the quality of candidates that are coming through for this position, or the volume, and the fact the position's still open after 4 months. And so this is the way to solve the problem, and I'd like the opportunity to show you. So that's one. You get things like what happens if I don't fill it? What happens if you don't fill it? You get things like we've never had to do this before. Why do we have to do it now? So yeah, I mean, I can share how I would overcome those two if you want me to.
Yeah,
And
go ahead.
you get all sorts. So what happens if you don't fill it? So the reality is that it's about what I can guarantee and what I can't guarantee, right? What I can't guarantee is the perfect candidate. You're going to end up with a perfect candidate, because I can't guarantee that the perfect candidate exists. I can't guarantee that the person with the exact skill set you're looking for, with the exact company background, is ready to make, with the salary that you're looking to pay, is ready to make a move to you right now. Like, I can't make people, and I can't force people to do things against their will. But it's about what I can guarantee. I can guarantee that I can take a thorough brief, that I can line that brief up with what does exist in the market as best as possible with my knowledge and yours of the market. I can then guarantee we can systematically identify all of the people that look to meet that brief across that talent pool, those geographical areas or target companies. And I can guarantee we'll take the most compelling message possible to every single one of those people, and that we'll bring to the table all of those candidates that are humanly possible to bring to the table. And I can guarantee that at the end of this process, you're going to be making your decision from all of the people that are available to you in the market at this time. And if for any reason you decide you don't want to make a hire from what is available to you, that you'll have all of the data, all of the intelligence, all of the evidence on which to base your decision of what to do instead. And that's the best position that anybody can put you in. And I'd like to be the one to do that.
And speaking of data, you'd also definitely come in hand, it will definitely come hand in hand with technology, right? So how much of technology plays a part in making sure you've got that robust process put in place, and in terms of managing the expectations of a client, how important is technology here?
That's a good question. I mean, technology plays a part in every stage of our lives, doesn't it? But of the retained process, and it isn't necessarily one piece of technology that's necessary. What it's about is maximizing your effectiveness and efficiency of each of the stages of the process. So let's say, for example, you're at the research stage and you're identifying all of the candidates either across that location or across those target companies. Then we'd use multiple different methods and multiple different pieces of technology to do that. It might be we're using LinkedIn, we're probably using some kind of data or finding tool like a Signal Hire or a Lusher to get phone numbers. We're looking at published data across the internet on speaker notes or website directors. And so there's hundreds of pieces of technology that you're going to use throughout a search, but no one piece that is the answer. And the reality is it's probably no different to the tech that you're using on a contingent basis. But because you're working on a retained partnership, you're able to very thoroughly carry out each stage to make sure that every stone is unturned and every candidate is outreached in every possible way. Of course, you don't get the luxury of the time to do that on a contingent basis because, well, somebody might have sent a CV in before you've had the chance to even start doing that.
Now, in terms of the delivery process, how does this process differ for retained searches compared to contingent?
It depends, because some contingent recruiters are just throwing CVs at the wall and hoping some of it sticks. And some contingent recruiters that I've met, and I would probably put myself closer to that bracket, are very thorough in their approach to research and finding candidates. So the biggest difference really is the process and the time scales by which you're moving through each stage.
Right.
So because you're able to have a fixed process and a timescale that you have set out with the client, you're able to fully execute the research stage before moving into the long listing and the shortlisting stage. So there's no danger of submitting a candidate and then thinking, actually, there might be other candidates that are better than this. You actually reach a stage where you can be certain you're putting your client in the position that they are able to now go ahead and make their decision from the best of the talent that's available to them in the market at this time. And that's one of the biggest differences in the execution process.
Now, final question here. What advice would you give him, given all these different models and the different results that we see from switching the models, as you have seen in your career? What advice would you give someone who is just starting out in recruitment today, Louise?
That's a good question. I would say know that there are different ways to work. I didn't when I first started, and that they're quite different. And there are different career paths in different talent acquisition models. I didn't realize, for example, that talent mapping, talent pipelining, and talent insights was a career. I didn't know that there's a route through executive and retained search firms which doesn't involve sales. And I think when you're just starting out, it's worth investigating different models of talent acquisition before you embark on the journey.
Well, thank you very much, Louise, for your time and these insights. And I wish you all the best. You've had great success so far in Retrained Search, and I'm glad you're able to give that back to the community in something that you've learned 13 years into contingent recruitment. So thanks again. And for those listening in who might want to pick up a conversation with you or connect with you, where can they find you?
Of course. So it's Louise Archer at Retrained Search. I'm on LinkedIn quite often, so feel free to connect with me on there. And on our website is retrainedsearch.com, and there's loads of information, helpful resources. Feel free to use those to help you in your journey wherever you are.
Excellent. Thanks again, Louise. And we have been in conversation with Louise Archer, founder of Retrained Search. Thank you for joining us this week, and remember to subscribe. Stay tuned for more weekly episodes from All in Recruitment.